again unless Dominic doesn't have too many questions. I have one at the end.
I have another question. In Old Cape Park, which is where I live, in the public housing section, does the city maintain those trees or public housing?
It depends on the setback of the streets.
All right, I
Typically,
believe we are live on
we
YouTube.
take ownership.
Okay, so some trees, one, some the other, okay.
And attendees. Greg, can you hear us?
Yes, I can't
Excellent, we
see
can hear you.
anything, but I can hear you.
What's that? You can't see?
I can't, yeah, it just showed your icon, which might be a setting on my end.
Oh, no, it's ours. Sorry. There you go. How's that?
That's great.
Good. Again, I got it logged in. So it's 5:31 and I think we should start the meeting. Greg. Oh, starts ringing. Greg asked me to go ahead and share like I used to, where he is working from home tonight. So we'll start out with an approval of the meeting minutes from the July 10th, 2024 meeting.
I
Take
make
a
a
motion.
motion to approve them.
Excellent.
And I second.
Excellent. Do we have any changes that need to be made to those meeting minutes? Nice. No changes. All right, all in favor of accepting the meeting minutes? And Greg? Oh, raise hand. Excellent. All right, so we'll jump right into the 2024 planting review and I'll turn it over to Ben.
All right, so this year we are hoping to plant just over 70 trees citywide, all scattered throughout. Most of these removal installations rather are from prior removals before I took over, and then some storm damage removals that were done following last December's storm. I've specified quite a bit of diversity. And on this list, we have 32 species represented by 21 different genera. So a good mix of diversity to kind of proliferate some good trees and versus a monoculture of given trees and spread out throughout the city. And the remaining open spaces are looking to get planted next year, depending on budget. So
Do you have these trees already?
I do not.
You don't, okay,
No.
but they're available.
Yes, yep, they are all available and looking to get them next week and get them in the ground before frost.
Finally getting a little bit of moisture.
Yes.
So we could use it.
Perfect.
So I see you have tree removals on here,
Yes.
and what does this denote?
Tree removals denotes the removals that we have on the radar for the forestry department. So the ones that say done, yes,
Okay, yeah,
have been completed this year, either within the department or by a contractor.
okay, and he'll continue to remove through,
Yes, yep, throughout the
Um,
winter.
yeah, throughout the winter, yeah, okay,
Mhm.
all right.
And when they're removed, how soon after do they usually get replanted? If they don't get replanted or how?
We use a subcontractor to complete stump grinding, and that has wrapped up for the season. That stump grinding contractor is only here from April until the end of September.
Mhm.
And then he leaves for the season. So once those are down, get them back on the list to get
And then
stump
I-
ground. And then it's very rare, 1 out of maybe 50 will not get another tree due to utilities or, setbacks from, keeping view sheds from intersections and things of that nature. But typically, if we take down a tree, it gets replanted.
There were 2 or 3 taken down along, I think it's Fort Knox Avenue, bordering the fields at Downey School that haven't been replanted. So now there's a sort of long stretch without any trees there. Is there any plan that you know?
There is a plan, not specifically for there, but I'm looking at all the inventory we have taken. With the interns I had this summer, they have also taken vacant planting spots. So looking to fill those and kind of pair up with Google imagery
Mhm.
based on past where trees are no longer present.
Yeah.
They'll eventually get a tree and be put on the list.
Yeah, a few of them on Moosehead in front of the school are now, the tops are, but I don't think these Moosehead ones are at the school. They're lower numbers. The school's at 100 Moosehead, so I
Yeah,
assume these are
yep.
somewhere else on Moosehead.
Yes, yep.
But those ones in front of the school, I've actually complained to Public Works because they weed whack the school grounds and have damaged the base of every trunk.
Ugh.
Every trunk. I have pictures, it's awful. And they said, well, we tell them not to do it, but meanwhile, the other street trees that public housing does the mowing look fine. So I don't know what public housing's doing to protect the trees that I assume it's Public Works. Now, who does the school? This is the school's own?
School doesn't.
No, okay, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to
It's all right.
take
No,
up-
it's all right.
Whoever I talked to about, it's been like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Josh McGuire must be in charge of the field maintenance, the grass maintenance at schools, because we're not doing it, and I don't
No.
think it's Tracy's guys. He wouldn't be jumping into schools. He's got so much already.
It would be nice. They're shortening the life of those trees, I'm sure.
This is an ongoing thing. I mean, the parks, you see a lot of girdling, the
Yeah.
guys in the zero turns, so they don't have to weed whack. They get right up against the
Uh-huh.
tree and just zoom around it. And, you've got a lot of summer help coming in and I don't know. It's an ongoing discussion.
And is it necessary to cut the grass right at the base of the tree? Does it hurt the tree to let it grow a little longer there? Is it just cosmetic?
No, the ordinance says that, the grass is supposed to be mowed on esplanades. As for parks, I don't know. I don't know. How much room, you know what I mean?
Maybe mulching could be a possibility
Yeah,
that could
yeah.
help. No, because that's sad. Some of those trees are old.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
To regrow a tree that size.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing. We had a conversation with a resident recently who was quite upset about it.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't have the answer, and
Mhm.
I don't know that Tracy has the staff to be mulching and putting rings around every tree and every
I
park.
understand.
I think it'd be better to train the employees, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but it is frustrating.
Hmm.
Tell them you're gonna dock their salary for the cost of the tree.
I don't know how legal that is.
Well, it's
Joking.
interesting to see
I
what-
know.
it'd be interesting to see what the ordinance says and if there's a way to say, we're willing to have a little bit of long grass around the trees. If it's not hurting the trees, but mowing that close is,
Yeah,
then,
the esplanades are maintained by residents. It's really the park trees. I mean, I imagine the schools have some sort of rules around that,
mhm,
around maintaining their properties.
hopefully the school committee.
Possibly do the native, we had talked about trying to do a little native plant ring, you know what I mean, around some of the trees.
Mhm.
So if there's only a few of them, something to think about.
Yeah,
But that
Yeah,
goes
I haven't
on.
looked at the other schools. I walk by that one regularly, so I'm aware of it.
yeah. So, thanks, Ben, for getting this together. With broken down by removals, pending removals, plantings, and then, the stump grinding. So this is grinding and loam completed.
Yes.
You probably should have grinding pending too.
Yep.
Just throw it all in there. And it looks like we have a tree removal request, which I did not investigate. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
So this is for a resident on 363 Lincoln Street. This is a shared ownership tree, so this tree is planted right on the boundary of public and private ownership. So these ones are always a tricky situation. We concluded that trees that the neighbor had in front of his house at 371 Lincoln Street were not of good health.
Yeah.
They had a hollow upper canopy, and public works staff removed some of those upper canopy branches, and then took a look at some of the remaining branches and realized by the time we would be done removing the hollow hazard wood, these are all silver maples. It would not be a very aesthetically pleasing tree, and it would just be unfortunately easier to take the remaining stems down than leave a big long.
And you're talking about the neighbor's tree, not this one. Okay.
So this tree was inspected around the same time. And if we go to, let's see, the second picture in, the concern was for cavity holes within the tree. There is a squirrel that goes in and out of those cavity holes. If you do take a look at that Y right there, that is actually a peanut that the squirrel was bringing into its home.
I see another one further down here
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
below it,
mhm.
on
Little
later picture.
bit of cavity there. What's interesting about this tree is there's really no breathing cracks or crevices within those injuries. So it looks like these joints are pretty sound and don't pose a threat to peeling away from the tree itself. My increment board, which is take a core sample of the tree at the base, and that came back with no rot in it whatsoever. There was an additional concern about the lean of the base of the tree. I don't believe I have a photo of that, but this tree was leaning at about 24 degrees, but there's no uplift of the root system. It looks like it's always naturally just been leaning that direction, so.
And their main concern was the squirrel.
Squirrel and the lean, and they also had some storm damage this December, some rotten branches that came down. And while the contractor was removing the neighbor's trees, he went up into this tree and removed some additional dead wood.
Is there any concern then with those squirrel holes with the whole freeze thaw type of?
There definitely is, and it is on a re-inspection interval. I've set a calendar reminder, like quarterly, to go back and take a look at the tree.
So am I hearing that you think that this is a sound tree at this
Yep.
point? Your
Yep.
recommendation is not to
Not,
take it down?
not to take it down at this time. It still has plenty of living branches. In the upper canopy, it shows good signs of vigor. You know, the leaves are green. There's nothing dead, diseased. It's pretty dense canopy and, you know, not showing any signs of stress right now, so.
Well, then, if you don't mind me saying this, then I make a motion that okay, so
This is always the fun one.
I know, and I started it, didn't I? Well, that we keep the tree with the consideration that you will be inspecting it.
Yep.
3 times a
Yes.
year?
Yep.
And that's the motion, is to deny the request to
Yes.
take it.
So-
down under those conditions.
So this is that touchy one that we've been dealing with every time we have one of these. You're an advisory board, so you can advise me to go to council and override our ordinance. Since you feel that this does not rise to the level of asking us to override the ordinance. You're just expressing your opinion that the tree should stay. And understanding that Ben is gonna be doing regular inspection intervals. So if anything changes, he's likely to catch it instead of waiting for the tree to fall and
Right.
then. So,
But I think we're basing this all on his expertise, so.
and in the fact that he's using an ISA, a standardized inspection form.
Yep.
You know what I mean? This isn't,
And that was printed, but apparently it did not get stamped.
I was wondering why it wasn't there. Yeah, I think that objectivity is the key for us on these removals, because it's a standardized form that's used around the world, and to be able to say that it meets this criteria. There's no guarantee 100% healthy tree wouldn't come down in the right storm. I mean, look what Florida's dealing with
Mhm.
in this very moment, so. Okay. I'll,
Do you need seconds or?
no, it's, at this point, it's just a thumbs up, thumbs down,
Okay,
you know, kind of situation. It isn't, anything that you'd necessarily need to vote on unless there was not a
Unless we thought it
consensus.
should come down, right?
Yes, and then I would be able to go to the council and say, all 4 members of the tree board would like to request a variance from the ordinance because of this or this.
Mhm.
But that's not the case. All right, anything to add, Greg?
Nope, sounds good.
Okay. Uh, variance. So, who would like to give an overview of the project at Oak Street and Washington Street?
Greg, do you want me to do that, or do you want to do that?
Yeah, you can do it. I don't, you're more than qualified.
Give me a second, want to make sure I have the list.
If you don't have the list, I can do it also.
If you have it right there, feel free.
I have it memorized.
Oh, he's got it.
So
memorized.
we planted 26 trees, 6 white spruce that are about 1.5 feet tall, 6 eastern red cedar, which are also about 1 foot tall, 3 yellow birches, 6 serviceberries, 3 that were smooth leaf, smooth serviceberry, and 3 that were Canadian serviceberry. 2 red sugar maples and 2 red oaks, and 1 hornbeam, all in that area as we had laid out. I think the only change from when I originally presented was that we squeezed in 1 more red maple along Washington Street. Everything seemed to go really well. We could have used more volunteers, and we definitely bit off a little more than we could chew, but it only took about an hour longer than we originally planned. So I think it went off well. We did overseed the area where the asphalt was removed with yarrow and self-heal and a native grass seed variety. All of those can grow low underneath mowers, but should add a little more biodiversity and a little more native plants in the area. And I think that's it.
So I'd like to note that I did not bring the square footage of asphalt removed, but I will add that to the notes when I write them up, because we were able to get some asphalt removed. It is technically city property, but the lessee of that property, was it technically on there? Or is it just abutting it? I can't remember, but we worked with them to kind of talk about what that would look like with that asphalt removal and the planting of the trees. There was back and forth on the variety of trees that we planted, so they were very happy. They understood that it was city property and we could do what we wanted, but they were very happy that we were working with them and that they had some say, and I can't even remember which tree, hornbeam?
Yep.
Yeah, that was planted at their recommendation, so. I thought that was nice. It's nice to see a little bit of unnecessary asphalt removed, you know what I mean? That's a
Yeah.
win. I got the chance to plant one tree and I could only plant one tree because I ran into asphalt about
Mm.
6 inches down. It was solid asphalt, yeah, which was too bad, but hopefully the tree still has a chance. Can survive. Yeah, no, it's always nice. I heard you guys ran into some really tough conditions down below.
It
Three
was a
quarter
lot
inch
of
stone.
negative. We'll see how it all goes. I think that they all seem
yeah.
to look like they're gonna grow great. And now when you drive in, it's like we're a tree city and we actually have trees.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It'll be a nice welcome, I think. And I felt like of all of them, the spruce trees were so easy to envision. You know, just like you just know how a spruce tree looks, and to
Yeah.
see a whole row of them was really like,
Yeah.
and they were so cute.
It's gotta be
A
impactful.
rewarding day.
I think, yeah, I think that's the
Very
biggest
exhausting,
takeaway from that. Yeah, I bet.
Well, and I just want to say, I was saying earlier at our other meeting that as a volunteer, I just showed up for the day to help plant, but I know a lot, as you've stated, has gone on prior to that with a bunch of you preparing for the day. So thank you very much for the city's help, because it was needed.
Yeah, well, no, we're
And
happy to
thankful
partner.
for it
Yeah.
and appreciate it.
Bangor Beautiful is a great organization and
Mm.
it's nice to work with them, so. We're happy that the work that Bangor Beautiful does supplements the work that we do, and so we're happy to reciprocate. That was supposed to, I was supposed to go to council on Monday, or to GovOps on Monday for approval, retroactive approval, and it never got put in the packet. So it did not go, so now it is going to infrastructure, because GovOps takes Parks and Rec stuff and infrastructure takes public works stuff. So it could go to either, but where it was Parks and Rec property, we kind of thought that made sense. So where it was missed, we're gonna go there on the 21st, and then we'll go to full council on the 28th for approval, and that'll be a council resolve because we've already done the work. But the history, there's very little likelihood that we would get that turned down. At this point.
Fair enough, those
No, it's yeah, we'll get through the process, and I'll be more proactive. I delayed reaching out to the resident there at that property because I thought it would be a no-brainer, and just took a little longer to have the discussion than I expected, so. All right, yeah, another win for Bangor Beautiful and for the city of Bangor.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yes, wonderful.
Oh, yeah, so we did the tree removal requests already, nice. Browntail Moth, been to a couple events recently, and sounds like Browntail was down across most of the state, so Bangor wasn't unique. I have not seen any winter webs, and it's still early, but they should be creating their webs now and really tightening them up. So you'll start to see those silvery webs there at the very tips of trees, but have you seen any yet? I've been keeping my eye.
Today, just a few
Yeah,
in Oak Grove Cemetery. in
So
the
you'll-
Oaks, so.
start to see them more and more as they get more silk around the outside edges. They really show up with the sun shining, that silvery color. But I don't think. I don't know, we'll see what next year brings, but for weather, but boy, it'd be nice to have another year like this one where we had just the right amount of rain and then sun and then rain. Who did we talk to? We talked to a forester arborist out of Belfast
Yep.
last night, and he said that down in their area, way down. Like he believes that they've passed by, which I don't know if that's necessarily a thing, but
The bottom of the curve.
yeah, so that's a good thing. Emerald ash borer, our interns are gone, they're back in school now. Before they left, before the last one left anyways, we got a website page up to help ID Ash, just to begin with, on our old website. We're just getting ready to launch a new website, but just to help residents ID their ash. And then we added a C-Click Fix category to report privately owned ash trees, so that we can supplement our street tree inventory with private tree inventory, voluntary inventory, but just to help us get a handle on that, how big of an issue it's going to be on private property and what kind of resources the city may be able to muster to help support those private landowners.
That website page is on the city's
Yes,
website?
yeah, it's
We go to Public Works?
bangormaine.gov/EAB, I believe. And there's a brief discussion about EAB in there, and then some ash identification. Yesterday, and the plan, the EAB plan is still moving forward with that last master's program student. She had us over 3 weeks ago, and pulled together quite a group of, must have been 10 of us in the room, from Maine Forest Service and Orono, Bangor, some professors at the university, and we just weren't able to get. Had two Wabanaki that said they were going to show, Wabanaki representatives who said they were going to show, and neither of them were able to make it. So the idea with that is to help inform her plan that she's writing with the cultural sensitivity to what their needs are. But there was a Future of Brown Ash conference yesterday and today. Ben and I were both able to attend yesterday, and geez, I think there was 140. Yep, 140 people there. 180 total registered, so you could attend via Zoom. Last night, after the class, the sessions there, the presentations, we went over to Indian Island, got to see demonstrations of 3 different tribes doing ash pounding and pulling splints, and for basket making, and had dinner with them. I think there was 130 people registered for the dinner. It was a great turnout. Yeah. Really beneficial mix of I don't know if there was 7 or 9 different tribes represented. Just a mix of the importance to them, what they're doing to try to protect brown and black ash. A little bit of discussion about the use of green ash as a substitute, which isn't traditional for them, but
And it's not attacked by emerald ash borer?
yeah, oh, they are, yeah. But the black ash gets attacked first and dies the fastest.
Okay.
Yeah, super, and along with that, kind of that cultural awareness that allowed us to develop a lot of scientific reporting yesterday from a number of different universities between here and I think Michigan might have been the furthest out, on studies that they're doing to develop naturally resistant trees, as the emerald ash borer works its way through the residual ones, and then mating those just to naturally develop a resistant species. The brown, I guess, out there in the Upper Peninsula, they call it black ash. So there was a lot of black ash discussion yesterday, but they actually have some really good ability to resist the emerald ash borer when it gets in there and starts eating, but it overreacts, and that gives off VOCs, which attract more. You know what I mean? And it actually causes itself to die quicker. Whereas the green ash has that resistance, but it is very localized, and it can stop that worm from eating and not end up killing itself in the process. So yeah, super educational, and talked a lot about seed collection and making a plan for moving forward with how to maintain some diversity in the forest without just letting them all die.
Mm.
So, yeah. Anything to add?
And with EAB and APCAW, that is the collaboration with the Wabanaki tribal members. I will also be pairing up with 2 or 3 Bangor High School students. And we'll be doing a ash inventory, all ash species, within Prentice Woods, directly
Oh.
behind the high school. They're gonna be doing an inventory program, that's prescribed by the Gulf of Maine Research Institute. They're gonna be tallying trees within plus or minus 50 feet of the trails there. Each tree is going to get an identifying tag. And then that is gonna be built into an inventory that one of their seniors is going to work with GIS and then make that publicly available. So it's a lot of deep work happening, but
Yeah, and we went to a career day where we pitched our offering to students to come work for us next summer, with the hopes of bringing in a couple interns again and keep this work going.
From the university or the high school?
University, yeah. We also went over to UTC and had a career day where Ben pitched to the Natural Resources and Horticulture Program internships to try to get high school students involved as well. So, yeah, there's a lot going on still with Emerald Ash Borer. It's still early. It technically has not been confirmed in Bangor, so.
There was an article recently about Gilsland Farm, Maine Audubon, that they were releasing some parasitic wasps, 3 types of parasitic wasp. Is that being done anywhere else in the state? And
So they have a program. Was it Gabe that was working on that, or?
Yep.
I can't remember. So, yeah, they're the native parasitic wasp really isn't focused on EAB.
Right.
They'll take it if it's there, but they focus on a lot of other, or they'll take a lot of other hosts as well. So there's a couple non-native.
yeah, they said they were Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work being done on that. We can request to be a site for that if we have,
EAB present.
yeah, within a certain number of miles. And I don't think we're quite there yet,
Mhm.
because they won't do it preemptively. So you
Oh,
release them and they don't have
they
the
need to
worms
have the
to,
prey,
yeah, yeah, so. That's on our radar as well.
And, is it correct to assume that the injection thing is very limited? You can't do wholesale injections.
It's just too expensive
Yeah.
and labor hours. It
Mhm.
consumes a huge, we do have a list that was generated by the students this summer, specifically Sophie, I think, came up with that of high value trees in terms of value, aesthetic value, bigger trees. But also she really did a lot of work, calculating value of smaller trees that will continue to grow in value and become those important trees. So, what's that, 200?
250.
Wow.
give or take.
Yeah,
250 trees.
yes.
That's a lot of trees to inject.
Yeah, but, and yesterday they really confirmed that 3-year cycle is all that's necessary. So we can do a third each year. And then once the worst of the EAB passes, then you can drop down to even less frequent because there's just not as much around. So we have a plan. It's just, we gotta get the funding for it now and the plan. For the injections, we've got to buy the ArborJet sort of hardware to do the injections. We do have an employee who is licensed, but we don't have a master that's licensed yet. So we have another employee going for that specific master license so that he can oversee the arborists that we have and do those injections. That will save us a lot of money doing it ourselves versus hiring a contractor. So.
And what I was asking before the meeting about my own yard, where both my street trees are ashes, I don't know what kind of ash So
Check their
maybe
website
somebody
out.
can help me identify.
The problem is now is that they've already lost their leaves, haven't they? Or
They're
pretty
just
darn
about,
close,
they're just
yeah.
about done, they're fast, yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah. But the idea of, I assume that there are places in Cape Heart where there's a whole street of ashes. And then you're gonna have a big gap if they all go. The question of interplanting now, if you have space between trees, starting now to plant other trees.
Yeah.
So they'll have a head start before we lose wholesale, just a whole bunch of trees. And so is that in the planning at all?
I don't know if she addressed that.
Yeah, I don't
Really, that's something that we probably need to look at, where there's, cause there, there's gonna be places, there's gonna be places where it doesn't work, but there's gonna be some
Right.
that we could do that,
Right,
yeah,
yes, and just some areas that are heavily ash.
yeah.
Cause I can just being around town, I can tell some places there are a lot of ash and other places not so
Yeah,
many.
oh, we've got neighborhoods, developments that were all ash.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So every street treat,
Yeah.
every street after street after street. But some of those will also likely be targeted for saving, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
not a complete loss.
Mhm.
We really tried to establish saved trees in every neighborhood.
Mhm.
So that people could develop that sense of ownership. We'll put up some signs saying, this ash is being saved
Mhm.
for the sake of diversity,
Mhm.
tree diversity in the city, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then, so I had asked something last time, the whole question about if the city suddenly loses, or pretty suddenly over a period of a few years, a whole bunch of big canopy trees. And the two issues, one is the heat island effect and the other is water runoff. And I don't know what you can do in the short run about the heat island effect. You can't put a big tree
Yeah.
in. But the water runoff, I had asked about shrubs. And could the city, as a stopgap measure, be planting elderberries or dogwoods or the willows?
yeah, like you
Um,
said, stop the water
yeah,
from flowing
or
down your
even
property.
cattails, in ditches. The housing authority did a nice job. They have that circular park right across from their buildings,
Mhm,
and they've got cattails almost the whole way around.
yeah,
So wondering if that can be part of the plan, if there's gonna be a big loss of trees in the city, to be thinking about other plantings. Rain gardens, I don't know that that would be the purview of this group, but
yeah,
thinking about some ways to soak up all that water.
yeah, so it's not running right into our storm system.
Right,
Yeah.
right, because that could be a big load if you lose that many trees.
And that could be an educational thing too, where you
Mhm.
educate the property, well, they're not property owners, but the people who own,
Mhm,
the property that's looking at these trees that are eventually gonna die, is that,
Mhm.
that could be something where maybe they could pay to have it planted if
Mhm.
we had an organization, like
Yeah.
Bangor Beautiful was willing to do that.
yes.
Maybe like show an example of possible trees you could plant
Mhm,
now, bushes under, things like that.
Mhm.
And if willing, we would be willing, if you have two ash trees out front,
mhm.
maybe you could buy these to
Yes,
go in.
which I think we would be willing to do.
Right,
And we're one of those people that now with the heavier runoff, we're getting a stream in our backyard. I'm sure we're not the only ones.
Yeah.
And what you can plant and maybe instructions about a rain garden or what shrubs will soak up that
right,
water.
right.
I think it has to be part of the conversation for sure,
Mhm.
as we completely. I mean, it'll be a phase, I can't imagine we would get those trees down.
No.
In less than 5 to 10 years, it's
Yeah.
probably gonna be a 5 to 10 year project as we work our way through it, you know what I mean, and as the priority level changes. Depending on how the EAB
Mm.
comes through, but yeah, they were talking, some of the infestations move so quickly. The average movement was 50 kilometers a year, which is about 30 miles. Yep. And even at a conservative. Yeah, half that rate, 15 miles a year. That's quick, you know what I mean? And some of the trees, especially the black ash. Within 2 years, they're from healthy and vigorous to unsalvageable. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. With the black or brown ash, yeah.
Yeah.
Which we don't have any street trees, that would be in our forested areas, but still.
Mhm. So the street trees are not black or brown ash?
No.
They're the green ash?
Green
and white.
or white.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they would be,
Have a little more
Later.
resistance, and white is
Mhm.
less desirable to to the emerald ash borer than the green, and the green is less desirable than the brown or black, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. I wanted to ask you about the beech leaf disease and how big an issue and a problem is that? Because I've noticed it in Brown Woods.
Uh, it has come very fast. We had pretty spotty beech leaf disease last year. Stands that I went out in a partnership with Bangor High School to go look for it, where, you know, I had to look and look and look, and we found one individual tree that had, you know, the nematodes present. And you look at that place now and it's 5-10 acres of diseased
Mhm.
beech trees, so it's come pretty fast.
Does it kill the trees?
It certainly does not help them. Yeah, it's a pretty new infestation. We're waiting on guidance from the Forest Service. They're still working with their staff to come up with some preparedness measures and some treatment options as far as whether you do a foliar spray to prevent the nematodes or injections or what can be done, but they are such a small nematode that you can't see them,
Mhm.
so they just float around in the air and get past through rain. It's
Mhm.
really,
I mean, it doesn't end. It seems like every time we get on one of them calls, there's a new, what was the one, oak leaf wilt?
yep, oak wilt.
Oak wilt disease, yeah, which is hitting trees hard, New Yorkish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Pennsylvania, New York.
yeah.
Well, the diversity, what you talked
Yeah.
about, planting diverse
Yeah.
trees is a way to be more resilient.
And to have that inventory was kind of that first step. Okay, where are we? at?
Yep.
So, yeah. So urban forestry management plan, we have the notification. We were awarded the 75,000. Still don't have the contract. So Chip reached out to her, I think on Monday or Tuesday, and she said, I'm gonna have it to you. So it's coming. So that was why I invited Maine Forest Service, because Kenny sits on the tree board for Orono. Orono created their own urban forest management plan. And it's not on their website, which is why we thought we might be the first ones in the state to have an urban forest management plan. But their tree board came up with it. He's got the insight of being the Maine Forest Service, but also being on their tree board and having those discussions. So and then when I was in Atlanta, I spoke with Davey Tree, asked, you know, how familiar they were with urban, and they have a whole arm that does specifically that, and they're very excited at the idea of being able to bid when our bid goes out. But as I explained to Dana Karcher, who I spent a long time talking with down there, we don't know what we want to ask for because we've never done this, you know what I mean? So to have them come in and talk about how they do that and then give us some examples along with the examples that we've already pulled, I think that gives us a good starting point on an RFP. But I think we're gonna need to do some working group sessions, you know, to kind of keep that moving, because once every 3 months isn't gonna make that happen. But I'd really like to make sure we spend the time in those working groups coming up with a good RFP that addresses everything that we're worried about. That makes sense. So how do you envision that, Greg? Do you want to set a time right now for a working group meeting, or?
Sure, yeah, that would probably make sense. We had already done a fair amount to look through the example from New York and identify kind of what we wanted to see in it. But then we kind of stopped when we found out we couldn't submit it without funding.
Yeah.
So I think if we pick up where we were sometime in November or December gets crazy, so maybe.
That's what I was thinking, before Thanksgiving would be ideal, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
I have pretty decent availability in November, so.
Around the 18th, I'll be in Chicago. for 3 days for that urban forestry conference. And hoping to make some connections to.
So do we want to try to do it after you come back so that we can have that feedback? And then try to get, Davy Tree to speak to us at the same time and just kind of take all that under consideration. You're there 18th, 19th, 20th?
Yeah.
So then we're at Thanksgiving week, which all kinds of people take time off Thanksgiving week or family travel.
It's on a Monday, so people are gonna be gone over a long weekend.
So what would,
No, it's on Thursday, excuse me. not-
yeah.
Excuse me, I'm not thinking.
The, Thursday would just be too soon after you get back. You don't even have a chance to process it.
Yeah, my flight comes in Wednesday night.
Yeah. All right, so we don't look at that. Do we want to look at the week of the 11th?
I think that would work for me.
Yeah, let me just look at council chambers real quick.
City council's on a Wednesday because of Veterans Day. But Tuesday might be open. Oh,
Yeah,
Tuesday.
So it would be Wednesday. My calendar, oh, right there.
We already have trees and bees, so it makes sense.
Mhm.
What day is that?
The 13th, is it what you're looking for?
Mhm.
Yeah, so. With city council workshop and the city council meeting, no way we could squeeze it in. They usually run to within a half an hour of each other, so unless we wanted to do it during the day.
Yeah.
Parks Recreation and Harbor Advisory Committee. Actually, we could, well, how much of a trouble is it for you guys to hold it out at Public Works?
We did that last time.
Yeah.
If someone gives me a lift, not hard at all.
I'd be
So-
fine with trying to do it during the day too. It doesn't have to be at night.
The daytime works for me.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm flexible during the day.
What's your trees and bees on the 13th?
That's at 4:30 to 5:30. If we did it before that, it would be fine with me.
Okay. For me, it looks like I'm wide open on the 13th, the only day of the week I'm wide open, so. What are you thinking, Greg?
that works for me. I could do during the day, before.
So you guys decide what works. You got 4:30, you've got to be there, so we got to be done by 4, so you want to do a 3 to 4 or?
3 to 4 would be fine with me if that works for everyone.
Yep.
But would that be here then, or?
That'll be,
Oh, yeah, we could do it here if that's, let me just check. Yeah, school committee. Would be up there at 7, yeah. So we could do it here.
Okay.
Let me just confirm that nobody else already has a meeting scheduled in here, but I will, I'll let you guys know. And there's actually another conference room we could use if we had to, so,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. While we're on the urban forestry management plan, I also wanted to, let everyone know. I think I told everyone about the Audubon. Maine Audubon applying for a grant as well under that same program. They did get that grant, and that was to create a network of nurseries across the state. Portland, Lewiston, Washington Academy, and Bangor. So they have already reached out to us to ask if we would like to move forward with that, which is exciting because it's money to for the design of the new nursery, for irrigation, for deer fencing, which deer are eating whatever we plant out there. So we need that, and soil amendment and pay for students to come out and work in the nursery, along with a Maine Audubon supervisory guide. So, yeah, Yeah,
Where
I'm
is the
really excited
nursery?
about that, huh?
Where is the nursery?
Out on Pinson Road.
Ah.
Yeah. Our leaf composting
Ah,
site.
yes. I
Yeah.
know.
So, yeah, very happy about that. I'm taking that to council on the 21st as well. They're not granting us the money, they're spending their grant money here, I guess is the best way to put it, but, it still needs approval from the council, which I cannot imagine. There's no matching requirement. It's just such a win for us to be able to get that nursery up and going. So I'm very excited about that and very excited about, so what is the name of the Wabanaki Youth Group? Wabanaki something science, Wabanaki Youth and Science
Yeah.
WISE. Yeah, so they're working with them to collaborate on this as well. So we already have UTC that committed that they're interested. When you and Sophie presented up there was interest at Bangor High STEM program. And then the Wabanaki Youth Group, so this is gonna be exciting to get them all
Really
involved
exciting.
in the care of the nursery. So, yeah, good things happening. Is there anything else we need to discuss?
Now, I just wanted to mention and ask your advice, although I think I know what the answer is going to be in regard to this past week or so on our neighborhood Facebook page. Someone posted a letter from a property owner actually on my block. A neighbor saw people walking down the street and cutting. There's a tree on their private property that's hanging over their fence low over the public sidewalk. So it was this big to-do, they're like 40, 50 comments or so. But these people cut some in order to give it a little bit more height. So I know that you either contact the owner of the property, not you, but the
Yeah.
person, say, your tree is hanging down, do you mind if could you please, or do you want me? Or if you don't go that route, you could contact the city because that's over the public way. So, is that
Yeah,
true?
a lot of residents struggle with those one-on-one conversations because they do get a little emotional. So, there is an ordinance that says that, a private tree needs to be 8 feet over the
8
sidewalk, 14 over the street. And, a call to code enforcement generally results in a talk with the resident by the code enforcement
The
officer.
code enforcement. Okay.
Yeah. And I think he generally sees pretty good compliance with that.
Mhm.
If it's our tree, it definitely. If you go to him and it's our tree, he's gonna call us and say, hey, go cut your tree.
Right,
So,
right.
we work together quite a bit on that, but yeah.
And then they could also use the app, it's no longer Bangor app, but whatever
Yeah.
it's called. the
Yeah,
other
yeah,
one.
If you
as
go to
well.
the See Click Fix app and enter that request or
Mhm.
report low hanging branches over the sidewalk.
Mhm.
Then we figure out where it needs to go.
Right.
Cause most people put it in under trees, but then we put it over to code enforcement if we
Mhm.
determine it's a private tree.
Yeah,
So,
this was probably at 5 feet, there was only like maybe 5 feet
Yeah,
cleared, so.
yeah, it's a tough one. I know when my wife and I were walking, there was. It's just an annoyance, and it's mostly when the ground's wet, you know what I mean, cause you can't, so you're out in the grass and. You
Right,
start to get that all muddy, but. Yeah, it would be nice if we lived in a place where everybody could just stop and talk to each other and. Get it worked out, but it isn't always the case,
Mhm.
so. We act as the intermediary.
Slightly personal / Bangor beautiful, but 12 Norfolk isn't on here. Are you guys still planning on planting my tree? Just making sure it's still on there.
I don't think the Chapin Park tree's on there either, is it?
Yeah.
But that's gonna get planted too, yeah.
Cool.
But you got a bigger list than that, Dominic.
What's that? Oh, no, I'm done actually.
Oh, that was it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me think, I could come up with.
Anything else we need to discuss? We're actually doing pretty good. We have 5 minutes to spare.
Well, I guess a question would be this, like in the past, if we've discussed anything about, like in my case, the thought of trying to keep sidewalks when they're being repaved getting too close to the street. So do we do a follow-up on that at some point?
No, I had a conversation with, so we were repaving on Grove. And we had a sidewalk that had buckled up from the roots and, thinking about your conversation. Just said, okay, do we need to cut to get down? And, they ended up building up a little bit in that spot, not so much so that it was unsafe, you know what I mean? But they built up just enough that no roots ended up being cut and they did the
Okay.
repaving. So I think short of having an ordinance that says it, I think those individual conversations with the leaders at Public Works so that they're thinking, especially when they hear it from me, then the next time it comes up, they're, oh, that's right, he wants us to try that. You know? So that's, I guess it's a step in the right direction. It's not really necessarily a formal.
Right. And also
solution.
being flexible with the 5-foot width as well, not just even raising it, but also
Yeah,
not having it still go against the trunk of the tree.
Yeah.
base of the tree.
yeah, well, I think that's a case of trying to move over a little bit without getting onto private property. Just for accessibility, they really try to not go below the 5. And I know ADA is what, 36, 39, something like that, but, I don't know what there is for ADA rules. Most of them are at curb cuts and most of the rules that we have to comply with, but. Yeah, not getting them so close to the tree would be huge.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hear you. I think they did go around, in addition to going up, I think they actually went out around that tree a little bit too, just to stay away from that. Yeah. It'll just continue to be conversations like that
Right,
at this
oh,
point.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but at what point do we start making hard and fast written rules, you know what I mean, that we can't? And the conversations aren't making progress anymore, that's when we investigate that.
I mean, since we're gonna be losing, unfortunately, so many trees, why add to it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I saw in Portland's. One of those report outs, Portland was losing 646. Trees or something like that, and I'm like, whew. It would be nice if we only had that many to deal with. Yeah, we've got a lot.
Mm.
And was it in Portland that they're cutting? They're doing some preemptive cutting.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, I think they've already got it pretty heavily invested down there, so they're trying to catch up with the dangerous trees at this point, yeah. Yeah. No, they're in a tough spot. What's so nice about actually getting ahead of something for once?
Mhm.
Making plans and being proactive. Of course, it's a harder sell to residents when you're cutting down a healthy tree, but
Mm.
if we don't start soon, then we'll be in that same boat where we have all these dangerous trees and we have to cut fast, so. All right, anything else? Thank you very much. Greg, do you have anything?
I did think about, we talked twice about needing to mow. So once when we were talking about like keeping mowing equipment away from trees, and then also in an effort to reduce stormwater when we lose all of these ash trees. So at some point, we might want to look at the weed ordinance for the city of Bangor that requires everybody to mow their lawns. Just because it could have an effect on the longevity of our trees. And as a Bee City USA, it's something we would want to look at doing. I don't know what that's gonna look like, but that's an ordinance that we might want to take a look at and maybe give a recommendation at some point in the future to reevaluate. Because the mowing up next to the trees certainly affects the trees, and then also we have this opportunity to let natural things grow, which would also be beneficial to our trees.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know there was an ordinance that required us to mow our lawns, because I stopped mowing all section of our.
oh, did you? Yeah, it's, can't remember how high, but.
10
Yeah.
inches, it's complaint based, so if your neighbors don't complain, you won't get a letter from the city. But if you live in a neighborhood where they do complain, you will.
That's what I was just gonna bring up, the walkers complain a lot because it gets so big that it starts flopping over on the sidewalk. And that's when we start getting the complaints, or we tend to. I mean, we've got some people in each neighborhood who really like to have everything mowed neatly cut all the time, you know what I mean?
Right.
Just like that, but I think maybe a good tactic on that, Greg, is to throw some of those options into the EAB plan.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Recommendations to handle the additional stormwater runoff right in that plan. You know what I mean? If there's sound suggestions and we adopt the plan, that at least that gives us some room,
Mhm.
you know, a little bit of leverage to say, okay, well, this was part of the plan, so let's give it a
Right.
try.
And we could
Yeah.
also put it in the urban forestry management plan.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's, my whole household this spring read an excellent book. It was The History and Future of Nature in the City. It really changed my
Yeah.
thinking about, well, I already had questions about mowing, but, about biodiversity and letting things go, developing a new idea of what is beauty. But there's a whole chapter on trees specifically. It's fascinating. So I recommend, it's a recent book. It's The History and Future of Nature in the City.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Mhm.
All right, everybody good?
Yep.
I don't think we had anybody else join in, did we? No, it's just us. All right, thank you very much, Greg. I hope you feel better.
Thanks. Me too.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.